Do you believe that a country can plant 5 million trees in just 60 minutes? Not China, not the United States, but Burkina Faso, a country in the heart of West Africa, once labeled as the land of aridity and erosion. In June 2025, under the leadership of President Ibrahim Traore, this country did something the world could not believe. More than 5 million trees were planted in just 1 hour. There was no massive media campaign, no international aid fund behind it, just faith, national pride, and an unbreakable collective will. What is the real reason? Why has an environmental campaign become a political symbol? And why does it make global financial powers feel uneasy? Come with us to the next part where the truth is revealed through numbers and actions. On June 21, 2025 at exactly 10 NAS, an announcement was made from the office of the President of Burkina Faso. In 60 minutes, more than 527,000 trees were planted in 45 provinces across the country. The campaign is part of the annual National Tree Planting Day event organized by the late President Thomas Sankara, now restored and expanded in scale and significance by Ibrahim Traore in the capital Ouagadougou. President Traore personally participated in planting medicinal plants with students, university students, and religious organizations. Meanwhile, in the northern desert regions, people, the army, youth, volunteers, and even the elderly also took action, turning this event into a rare symbol of national unity. In just 1 hour, Burkina Faso did not just plant trees. They replanted faith in the land and in themselves. If your country had only 1 hour to prove its worth, what would you do? Next, we will delve into the why. Why would they do such a crazy thing? To understand why Burkina Faso is so determined to plant 1 million trees in an hour, we must look back at the country's painful history. Not with guns, but with the slow death of the land. More than 40% of Burkina Faso lies in the desertification belt, especially in the northern region where once fertile grazing lands are now reduced to dry sand and rock. The people call it dead land. Every year, thousands of hectares of arable land disappear under the hunger of hot winds and climate change, poverty, migration, land conflicts all start from the same route. There is nothing left to cultivate, to live, to believe in. As far back as the 1980s, the late President Thomas Sankara warned, if we do not replant the land will bury us. But that promise was forgotten after his death. Successive presidents focused on financial stability and aid policies, rather than investing in the land where all life begins until Ibrahim Traore took office. When asked why he chose trees as the centerpiece of his policy, Traore didn't talk about the environment first. He talked about dignity. No one can hold their head high with empty hands and no ground to hold on to. If you've ever seen a field turn into a desert after just a few dry seasons, you'll understand why they did this. Ibrahim Traore does not see trees as just an environmental policy. He sees them as a means of rebuilding the nation's soul. In many villages, tree planting is a religious ritual. Before digging a hole, people pray. When they lay the tree, they whisper the names of their deceased relatives. An elderly mother in Kosi province said, "This tree is for my unborn grandchild. He will grow up with it." The tree planting campaign on 21st June 2025 is not the first but the culmination of a movement that began in 2023 when Traore ordered that every school must have at least one garden tended by the students themselves. At first it was considered propaganda, but gradually, garden after garden grew, not in reports, but in the memories of children. Each tree was not chosen randomly. Most of them are indigenous medicinal plants with healing and soil restoring properties. Morina, neem, baobab. Not only do they help combat erosion, they are also linked to traditional African medicine, something Traore wants to restore as part of his national identity. So when he says planting 5 million trees in 1 hour, it's not just a number, it's a message, a collective action, and a declaration to the world. Burkina Faso isn't waiting for someone to save them. They are choosing to replant themselves from the roots. In many countries, environmental regeneration is a policy on paper, but in Burkina Faso, under Traore, it's become a way of life, passed down through generations. Every Child in first grade is taught how to plant a seedling, not as a secondary subject, but as part of a civic ethic. If you take care of the land, you will take care of people. From schools, the movement spread to churches, shrines, and mosques. Religious leaders called on their followers to plant trees as an act of faith. In the prayer ceremonies, people not only pray for rain, but also pray for each seed to take root. The foreign press described this campaign not as a simple tree planting but as a spiritual revival where people ask themselves, where can we build paradise, if not on the land our ancestors left behind? If you were a witness to the world turning its back on your land, would you choose to lament or start planting branches of hope again? At exactly 9 a.m. on June 21, 2025, the sirens sounded from the national radio. In the main squares, churches, schools, and military barracks, people stood up ready with shovels, hoes, and saplings in hand. No one was left out. In some province, one of the areas most affected by desertification, soldiers dug holes while children ran to supply water to the trees. A military doctor gave vaccinations and planted medicinal plants right in front of the health station. Monks, priests, imams, students, and villagers all participated, not out of obligation, but voluntarily. The campaign was coordinated through a system of community tree planting stations set up in 223. Each station had an eco-leader, usually a teacher, village chief, or nurse. They were trained in tree planting techniques, and more importantly how to inspire. The magic lies in the fact that each tree planted is not a scattered action but part of a greening map of the country. The Ministry of Environment uses satellite technology digital maps, combined with the Green Map FASO application to track each sprout after the day of planting. No one would think that a country with a lack of budget and advanced technology could coordinate such a nationwide campaign. If your hometown is arid and you only have 1 hour to sow hope, where would you start? Soon after the campaign ended, images from Burkina Faso flooded regional social media platforms. From Mali to Ghana to Senegal, people reposted the tree planting as a new symbol of Africa, healing itself without waiting for the world to save it. One video went viral. A child around the age of 5 placing a seedling in the ground, then bowing his head and clasping his hands in prayer. The clip was only 10 seconds long, but received millions of shares on platforms across West Africa. The top comment read, "We used to think freedom came from politics, but sometimes it comes from how we cherish a small tree." Less than a week later, groups of Nigerian and Côte d'Ivoire students organized 1-hour green campaigns at universities, emulating the Burkina Faso model. Community leaders began discussing the application of the self-managed medicinal plant plan to local health policy. The Burkina Faso government has not made any official announcements about the spread. Instead, they let their actions speak for themselves. A Traore advisor told the foreign reporter, "When you plant trees for your own children, you don't need a media campaign. The trees will speak for themselves." After the campaign, many schools began to incorporate EcoR into their timetable, where students not only learn about biology but also take care of the trees they planted when they were young. A teacher in Bulgu province shared they are no longer just learning about grades. They are learning how to be guardians of the earth. More than 200 local communities have signed up to participate in the Village Garden Keepers model, a program that empowers people to manage communal medicinal plant gardens, selling products such as tea, essential oils, and herbal medicines to health centers. Many families have for the first time earned income from land that was once considered useless. The program has also had a profound impact on the awareness of young people. A post-campaign survey found that 78% of young people felt more responsible for their environmental future, double the number from the previous year. For a country that has long been underrated for its sense of community, this shift is not just about the environment. It's about the foundations of a new civilization. If you had an idea powerful enough to spread without advertising, what would you do with it? But like all great things, this event also made some forces uneasy. And then an unexpected turn of events happened. In the history of modern West Africa, no unarmed initiative has spread as quickly and deeply as Burkina Faso's 5 million trees campaign. The point is this spread did not come from the government, but from the people. A wave of inspiration did not need slogans, no posters, just action. In Niger, which had just escaped direct French influence, student organizations proactively asked the government for permission to reenact the Burkina Tree Hour. On social media, the hashtag Gahel became a new symbol of solidarity. One student wrote, "We said no to weapons, no to aid. Now let's say yes to hope and roots." The Sahel community began to question development strategy. If a country without as many resources as Nigeria, not as rich as Ghana, not as stable as Senegal could still carry out a large-scale campaign, why couldn't other countries? Several provinces in Mali and Guinea have signed memoranda of understanding with the Burkina Faso Ministry of Environment to share their experiences in community-scale medicinal plant cultivation. A mayor in Mali said on television, "We used to think that only countries founded by the West could do big things. Not anymore." From a symbolic act, Burkina Faso is gradually becoming a regional hub for ecological knowledge transfer. Many experts call in West Africa's first transnational green strategy in which people's empowerment is at the core, rather than relying on NASA's or humanitarian aid. If one small country can inspire the whole continent with one action, how much more do you think can be done if we start together? While West Africa is enthusiastic about the greening campaign, a different and quieter response has come from international organizations. Although not openly critical, internal reports from the European Union's development agencies, USAID, and several major financial institutions have begun to put Burkina Faso on watch lists. The reason, the overshooting of his development strategy without the standard orientation. A researcher in Brussels once wrote, "When African countries write their own plans, build their own solutions, and implement them without going through development partners, the international financial ecosystem has no role to play." Although unofficial, mainstream media in Europe have begun to describe Burkina Faso's tree planting campaign with phrases like propaganda, unrealistic, or hard to assess long-term effectiveness. But on the ground, people are seeing results every day. Some analysts at the Environmental Policy Institute in London have warned that if African countries liberalize local initiatives, as Burkina Faso is doing, the global aid chain could face a credibility crisis. That is, if Africans see the results themselves, they will gradually become less dependent on donor organizations and aid budgets. However, that opens up a bigger question. Is this the real path to liberation? Not through political struggles but through concrete actions, such as planting trees, curing diseases, from grassroots and self-sufficiency, using indigenous wisdom. Many African scholars like Entra's model to a school without a blackboard where everyone is a student and nature is the textbook. That quiet but profound shift makes many developed countries vary because if independence starts with the land and trees, then no one can control it anymore. An independent report from a non-profit environmental organization in Ghana found that soil moisture levels in areas with medicinal plants increased by 18% in just 4 months. Another result from the Ministry of Health of Burkina Faso revealed that more than 50% of rural health stations were using herbal medicines instead of imported drugs, saving millions of CFA francs each year. Ibrahim Traore's vision, though unspoken, was clear. Instead of chasing aid to buy Western medicine, grow your own medicinal plants. Instead of exporting resources, grow sustainable value. Analysts call it eco-self-reliance, a new development theory that many Western countries find difficult to accept because it does not need them. If you can cure yourself, protect your land, and feed your people, who else do you need? But then amid the successes, something unexpected happened. An event that nearly derailed the entire campaign and revealed a whole new front in the war. While the country was still basking in the joy of the green victory, a shock came. In early July 2025, just 2 weeks after the 5 million tree planting campaign, a group of former military officials claimed that the campaign was actually a cover for the recruitment of paramilitary militias under the name of the Ecological Community. Information leaked from a confidential report claimed that during the campaign thousands of young people were trained in community coordination skills, but in reality it was elementary training in logistics, part of Traore's People's Defense Strategy. Several international media organizations began to repeat the accusation that Burkina Faso was weaponizing the environment for the purpose of population control and the establishment of absolute power. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, Western embassies in Ouagadougou immediately issued warnings to their citizens to be vigilant and reduce technical exchanges with the Ministry of the Environment. Some green aid, already very small, was also frozen indefinitely. At home, the opposition took the opportunity to strike back. One conservative MP declared, "Behind the pickaxe and the shovel is an attempt to centralize power. Behind the tree is a political flag." People were in it confused. National television was criticized for overly rosy coverage and some local radio stations were suspended for false reporting on tree planting numbers. The media war began. If you plant trees for your hometown but are accused of treason, how would you react? Under pressure from both inside and outside, President Traore remained silent for a week. No speeches, no press conferences. The whole country held his breath. But then on the 8th day, he appeared in a remote village in the Kaya region, not to talk politics, but to plant another baobab tree next to a newly built classroom. He did not answer the press, but the action quickly went viral on social media with the hashtag #DuckTheTree is the answer. After that, the president's office released an official document listing all the community training programs, emphasizing there is no military training involved in the tree planting campaign. At the same time, Traore allowed independent international organizations to monitor the tree planting sites. This move temporarily calmed the wave of criticism, but more important was the reaction of the people. Instead of protesting in the streets, they continued to plant trees. Many villages immediately organized independent tree hours where children and women took the initiative to plant more trees around schools and wells. An old woman in Yaga province said they can question the intention, but they can't deny the result. The trees still grow. For most people, the simple act of planting trees transcends politics. They don't need anyone's approval to do the right thing. They don't plant trees for the government. They plant trees for their children. In a world where fake news is rampant, people's choice to act rather than argue has become a form of silent protest and a reminder that great things are often questioned until they take root deep enough to be impossible to uproot. If silence is a form of response, and the tree is the ultimate proof, what will you tell your children in 10 years about this moment? And now that everything is clear, people are faced with a big question: what to do next so that the campaign is not just a memory, but a sustainable ecosystem. When God created us from the dust of the earth, He did not give us weapons or gold. He gave us the responsibility of tending the Garden of Eden. So when the people of Burkina dig holes, plant seeds, water them, they are not just doing environmental work. They are reliving a primordial commitment between people and the earth, a sacred covenant that we have long forgotten. Ibrahim Traore is not a savior, and the 5 million trees campaign is not magic, but it is proof that if you believe in your people, if you start from the ground under your feet, you can change a barren landscape. Not with guns, but with the roots of trees. Education is not just in the classroom. Faith is not just in the church. It is where you sow something good, however small. Because one day, those silent seeds will shade the next generation. If you could choose to plant a tree today, where would you plant it? For whom and for what? Write your answer in the comments below. It doesn't have to be right or wrong, just as honest as the ground you stand on.